Have you ever wondered why, despite all your efforts, things don't always go the way you want them to? Could it be that life is nudging you towards something greater, something beyond your own plans, a higher design that was written for you long before you even took your first breath? To seek God's plan is not to give up on your dreams, but to align your dreams with the divine blueprint already placed over your life. Seeking God's plan begins with surrender. We live in a world that teaches us to fight for control, to map every detail, to plan every step. Yet how often do we find ourselves frustrated when those plans collapse? It is in those very moments of brokenness that God whispers, "Let me lead." Surrender is not weakness. It is strength. It is the recognition that the one who formed you knows better than you know yourself. True direction comes when you quiet the noise. Every day, voices of the world demand your attention, social pressures, doubts, fears, and endless distractions. But God does not shout over the chaos. He speaks in a still, small whisper, and to hear him, you must create space in your heart. Silence is not empty. It is full of guidance if you are willing to listen. When you remove the noise, you discover that his plan was always near, waiting for your focus. God's plan is greater than your fears. Too often we hesitate, thinking our weaknesses disqualify us. Yet, what if the very obstacles you face are not signs of failure, but stepping stones leading you to a destiny you cannot yet see? Your struggles are not proof of abandonment, they are proof of preparation. He shapes you through the storm so that when his plan unfolds, you are ready to carry it, but his plan requires patience. We live in a world that rewards speed, but divine timing works differently. Seeds take time to grow, and so do God's promises. The waiting season is not wasted. It is where he refines you, strengthens you, and prepares you for the blessing ahead. Do not rush the process. Let faith water the soil of your patience. The plan is not delayed. Trusting his timing is the highest act of faith. You may not understand the detours, the delays, or the closed doors. Yet every not now is part of a bigger yes that is still unfolding. The unseen path is often the safest one because it is guarded by his wisdom. Trust does not mean you have all the answers. It means you walk forward believing he does. And when you walk in his plan, you find peace. Not the fragile peace the world offers, but a peace that steadies your spirit even when everything around you seems uncertain. Clarity follows trust, and purpose replaces confusion. Suddenly, life is no longer about chasing what fades, but about living what lasts. You begin to realize that fulfillment was never in your own plan, but always in his. So my friends, seek God's plan. Surrender your need for control, quiet the noise, overcome your fears, be patient in the waiting, trust his timing, and embrace the peace that comes when you walk in alignment with him. For his plan is not just for your success, but for your significance. It is not just for your journey, but for your eternal destiny. Seeking God's plan begins with surrender, not control. So often we find ourselves clutching tightly to the wheel of life, mapping out every detail, convinced that our efforts alone will carry us to fulfillment. Yet, if we are honest, many times those carefully constructed plans leave us weary, frustrated, or even empty. There comes a moment in every person's life where striving on our own strength no longer works, and we realize that true peace cannot be found in control, but in letting go. Surrender is not about weakness or passivity. It is about trusting that the one who designed your life knows the path better than you ever could. It is about loosening your grip and allowing divine direction to guide your steps. When you seek God's plan, you step into a place where control no longer defines your sense of security. Control is a fragile thing. It can collapse when circumstances shift, when people disappoint you, or when life throws the unexpected. But surrender is stable because it rests not on circumstances, but on trust. When you surrender, you declare with your life that you do not need to have all the answers because you believe the answers are already held in higher hands. This is not the easy way. In fact, surrender requires greater courage than control. Control thrives on fear of what might happen if you let go. Surrender thrives on faith, the deep conviction that even if you cannot see the whole picture, the plan for your life is already perfectly designed. Think about the times you have tried to force something that wasn't meant for you. Perhaps you pushed for an opportunity, a relationship, or a path that constantly felt like resistance. In hindsight, you can often see that those closed doors were actually protection, that the redirection was grace in disguise. That is the beauty of surrender. It teaches you to trust not just in the open doors, but also in the closed ones. It shifts your focus from why didn't this work to what is being prepared for me instead. When you stop fighting against what isn't yours, you begin to notice the gentle nudges leading you toward what is. Surrender also brings freedom. Control weighs heavy on the soul. It demands constant vigilance, endless calculation, and restless striving. You lie awake at night replaying decisions, worrying about outcomes and fearing failure, but surrender lifts that burden. It allows you to rest in the assurance that you are being led, that you are not alone, and that your path is unfolding exactly as it should. This freedom does not mean passivity. You still act, you still move, but your actions flow from trust rather than fear. Instead of forcing outcomes, you align yourself with divine timing. Instead of chasing every possibility, you wait for the right opportunities to rise before you. There is also humility in surrender. To seek God's plan, you must first acknowledge that your own understanding has limits. Human wisdom, no matter how brilliant, cannot see what lies beyond today. But God's plan stretches beyond the present. It accounts for what you cannot anticipate, weaving every moment, every delay, and every setback into a greater design. When you embrace this truth, pride fades, and humility grows. You begin to see that surrender is not losing control, but gaining perspective. You no longer carry the pressure of being your own savior. You learn to rest in the truth that you were never meant to walk alone. And perhaps the greatest beauty of surrender is the transformation it brings to your heart. When you stop striving for control, your spirit softens. You become more patient, more compassionate, more open to growth. You stop demanding that life bend to your will and instead open yourself to lessons, opportunities, and blessings you would have otherwise missed. Your vision clears, your burdens lighten, and your path, though not always easy, becomes deeply purposeful. So, when you seek God's plan, remember this: it does not begin with adding more control, more effort, or more striving. It begins with surrender, laying down the illusion of control and opening your heart to be led. Surrender does not strip you of freedom, it sets you free. It does not weaken you, it strengthens you. And it does not leave you empty-handed. It fills you with peace, clarity, and a deep sense of assurance that your life is unfolding according to a plan far greater than your own. True direction comes when you quiet the noise of the world and listen to the whisper within. In today's world, noise is everywhere, voices telling you who you should be, what you should want, and how you should live. Advertisements shout at you to chase material gain. People around you may pressure you to conform, and your own doubts often speak louder than your faith. If you are not careful, life becomes a constant battle of competing voices, each one pulling you in a different direction. The result is confusion, restlessness, and a sense of being lost, even when you are busy and constantly moving. To truly seek God's plan, you must learn to quiet that noise and turn your ear toward the gentle whisper that guides your spirit. Silence is often misunderstood. Many people fear silence because it feels uncomfortable. In silence, you are forced to face yourself, to acknowledge your worries, insecurities, and questions. Yet silence is where clarity lies. In the stillness of your heart, you're able to discern what is truly guiding you. The noise of the world is demanding and loud, but the guidance of God is often subtle, gentle, and steady. If you do not step away from the chaos, you risk missing the very direction that was meant to lead you forward. When you choose to quiet the noise, you begin to notice how much of it was never truly for you. How many times have you pursued something, not because it aligned with your spirit, but because the world told you it was success? How often have you said yes to things that drained you simply because you feared disappointing others? The voices of the world can distract you with business that has no real meaning. Quieting them gives you space to ask deeper questions. What am I truly called to do? Where is my peace? What path feels aligned with the person I was created to be? Those questions can only be answered when you turn down the volume of everything else. This quieting of the noise is not about withdrawing from life. It is not about ignoring responsibilities or avoiding people. Rather, it is about creating sacred space in your daily rhythm where your heart can breathe and your soul can listen. It might be through prayer, reflection, meditation, or simply sitting in stillness, free from distraction. In those moments, you begin to tune into a frequency higher than your own thoughts, a frequency that brings guidance, conviction, and assurance. You stop reacting to everything around you and start responding with wisdom that comes from within. True direction rarely comes with a shout, it comes with a whisper. And whispers require attention. Imagine standing in a noisy crowd. If someone speaks softly, you will not hear them unless you draw close and lean in. The same is true with the voice of God. It will not compete with the world's chaos. Instead, it calls you to step aside, to lean closer, to pay attention. And when you do, you begin to notice signs, nudges, and confirmations that were always there but lost in the noise. Quieting the noise also transforms your relationships. When you are no longer distracted by the opinions of others, you learn to listen differently. You become less reactive, more compassionate, and more present. Instead of seeking validation from outside voices, you carry a grounded confidence that frees you to serve others with love rather than fear. People may not understand why you choose stillness in a world obsessed with speed, but over time, they will notice the clarity and peace that surround you. The beauty of quieting the noise is that it does not just give you direction, it gives you peace in the process. Even when the path ahead is uncertain, you no longer feel tossed by every wave of distraction or doubt. You stand firm because your direction is not built on noise, it is built on trust. And that trust becomes a compass that points you forward, step by step, in alignment with a plan far greater than your own. So remember this: the world will always try to keep you busy, always try to keep you distracted. But true direction is found when you step into the stillness, when you lean into the whisper, and when you allow your heart to be led by something eternal rather than something temporary. In that quiet space, the path becomes clearer, and you realize that you were never lost. You were simply surrounded by too much noise to hear where you were meant to go. God's plan is bigger than your fears, doubts, and present struggles. So often when life places challenges before us, our first instinct is to shrink back, to question our worth, or to believe that we are not strong enough to overcome. Fear tells us we cannot move forward. Doubt whispers that we are not capable. Struggles convince us that we are stuck. Yet what we fail to see in those moments is that none of these voices hold the final word. They are temporary shadows that try to block the light of something far greater. The plan over your life is not determined by fear, not defined by doubt, and not defeated by struggle. It is far larger than anything you are facing right now. When fear rises, it feels powerful. It grips the heart, tightens the chest, and convinces the mind to play small. Fear magnifies what could go wrong while minimizing what is possible. But God's plan is not limited by what you fear. Many of the greatest breakthroughs are waiting on the other side of fear, and fear is often only a test to see if you trust enough to step forward anyway. What if your fear is not a sign to retreat, but an invitation to grow? The truth is, fear cannot cancel the plan. That only delays it if you let it. The moment you take one step forward in faith, fear begins to lose its grip, and the path ahead begins to open. Doubt works differently. Where fear attacks the heart, doubt attacks the mind. It questions your worth, your calling, and your ability to succeed. Doubt tells you that you are not enough, that you do not have what it takes. But here is the reality. God's plan is not dependent on your perfection. It is dependent on His purpose. Doubt thrives when you focus on your limitations, but when you shift your gaze to what is possible through His design, you realize that your weaknesses are not barriers. They are opportunities for growth. Doubt may try to paralyze you, but the plan is still moving forward. Even when you hesitate, God is still at work, aligning the pieces and preparing the way. Struggles, perhaps more than fear and doubt, convince us that we are stuck. Struggles are heavy. They drain your strength, exhaust your patience, and sometimes make you question whether you are even on the right path at all. But struggles are not the end of the story. In fact, they are often the very process through which God's plan takes shape. The soil must be broken before seeds can grow. The fire refines the gold before it shines. In the same way, your struggles refine you, shaping you into the person who can carry the weight of the destiny ahead. What feels like a setback is often a setup for growth, strength, and breakthrough. The beauty of God's plan being greater than your fears, doubts, and struggles is that you do not need to have all the answers right now. You do not need to see the entire path laid out before you. You simply need to believe that what you are going through is not wasted. Every tear, every delay, every unanswered question is being woven into a greater story. What you call a problem may actually be preparation. What you call pain may actually be pruning. And what you call loss may actually be leading you to a greater gain. So the next time fear rises, remind yourself that it is not bigger than your calling. The next time doubt whispers, remember that your worth is not defined by your feelings but by your design. And the next time struggles weigh you down, remind yourself that strength is being built in the process. God's plan is bigger than all of it, bigger than the obstacles, bigger than the voices of discouragement, and bigger than the limits you place on yourself. Take heart, then, in knowing that your current season is not the final chapter. Fear will fade, doubt will weaken, struggles will pass, but the plan over your life will remain. Stand firm, move forward, and trust that what is ahead is far greater than anything standing against you. Patience is the soil where His plan grows, and faith is the water that sustains it. We live in a world that prizes speed, where instant results are seen as the measure of success. If you want something, the message is clear: get it quickly, get it now, and if it doesn't happen instantly, then it must not be worth pursuing. But divine timing does not work according to the rush of the world. The greatest works of creation take time. Seeds do not bloom overnight. Trees do not reach their height in a single season. And the deepest roots are formed in silence beneath the surface where no one can see them. So it is with God's plan. What He has placed inside of you requires patience to develop, and it is in the waiting that strength, character, and wisdom are formed. Patience is not idleness. It is not simply standing still and doing nothing. Patience is active trust. It is the ability to hold on to hope when nothing seems to be moving. It is the discipline of staying faithful in small steps, even when the bigger picture has yet to unfold. Just as a farmer does not dig up the soil every day to check if the seed is growing, you too must resist the urge to constantly question whether God's plan is working. Growth happens in the unseen. Breakthrough happens in the quiet. Patience allows you to remain steady, knowing that what was planted will surely rise in its time. Faith becomes the water that sustains that soil of patience. Without faith, patience becomes unbearable. It feels like endless waiting without purpose. But when you water your patience with faith, the waiting becomes a season of preparation rather than punishment. Faith reminds you that even if you cannot see progress, something is happening beneath the surface. Every delay has meaning. Every pause is purposeful. Faith tells you that timing is not denial. It is development. What you think is silence may actually be the sacred process of your destiny taking root. It is easy to trust the plan when things are going well. But patience is tested in the waiting seasons, when doors remain closed, when prayers seem unanswered, when progress feels slow. In those times, the temptation is strong to force things, to make your own way, or to give up entirely. Yet forcing your way forward often leads to frustration and disappointment, while giving up robs you of the blessing that was just ahead. Patience, combined with faith, teaches you to wait without losing heart. It gives you the strength to endure the unknown, believing that the right moment is on its way. There is wisdom in patience, too. Sometimes If the blessing came too soon, you would not be ready to handle it. Just as giving a child a heavy responsibility before they are mature enough can harm them, receiving a gift too early can overwhelm rather than uplift. Patience ensures that when the door finally opens, you are strong enough, wise enough, and prepared enough to walk through it with confidence. The waiting shapes you into the person capable of carrying the weight of what you asked for. Patience also shifts your perspective. Instead of seeing life as a race to the finish line, you begin to notice the beauty of the journey. You see lessons in every season, even the quiet ones. You discover that the waiting teaches gratitude, endurance, and resilience in ways that immediate results never could. Patience opens your eyes to the truth that God is not only concerned with your destination, but also with the person you are becoming along the way. So remember this: patience is not punishment, it is preparation. And faith is not wishful thinking. It is the lifeline that sustains you while the promise is maturing. Just as rain nourishes the earth until the harvest is ready, faith nourishes your spirit until the plan is revealed. Together, patience and faith build the foundation for a life rooted in trust, anchored in peace, and guided by a plan greater than your own. The seed planted in your life will grow. It may take longer than you imagine. It may unfold differently than you expected. But if you remain patient and faithful, it will blossom in its perfect time. Do not despise the waiting, honor it. Do not fear the silence, embrace it. For in patience, his plan grows deep roots, and in faith, it finds the strength to bloom. Trusting God's timing is the greatest act of strength, even when you don't understand. Life has a way of testing your patience and shaking your confidence. When things don't unfold according to your own schedule, you set goals, you make plans, you expect results, and when delays come, frustration often follows. You may even wonder if you are on the right path at all. But the truth is, divine timing does not bend to human urgency. What looks like delay is often protection. What feels like silence is often preparation. Trusting God's timing means choosing to believe that every season, whether fast or slow, is exactly as it should be, even when your mind struggles to make sense of it. It takes strength to trust timing you cannot control. Human nature craves certainty. We want to know what's coming next, when it will happen, and how it will unfold. When those answers aren't clear, fear and impatience try to take over. But trust is an act of surrender. It is saying, I may not understand this pause, but I believe it has a purpose. That kind of trust is not passive. It is powerful. It takes courage to stand still when everything inside you wants to rush ahead. It takes resilience to keep showing up with faith when visible results seem absent. Strength is not always in doing more. Sometimes it is in waiting with unwavering trust. Think about how often rushing leads to regret. A door forced open before its time may collapse under the weight of unpreparedness. An opportunity taken too soon may end up harming more than helping. There is wisdom in delay. Divine timing ensures that when the right moment comes, the blessing will not only arrive, it will last. Trusting this process means you no longer see waiting as wasted time, but as an investment in becoming ready for what's ahead. You begin to see that the very pauses you resist may be the pauses that save you. When you do not understand the timing, trust becomes even more critical. It is easy to trust when everything lines up neatly, but the real test is when nothing makes sense. In those moments, you may feel tempted to doubt, to complain, or to walk away. Yet choosing trust in uncertainty is what builds inner strength. It develops endurance, deepens faith, and reshapes your perspective. The ability to trust without understanding is not ignorance, it is wisdom. It acknowledges that your vision is limited, but God's vision is infinite. Trusting timing also brings peace. Without trust, waiting is torture. Every delay feels like rejection, and every closed door feels like failure. But with trust, waiting becomes peaceful because you know that what is for you will not pass you by. You no longer chase after what doesn't align, nor do you force what isn't ready. Instead, you walk with confidence, knowing that the right moment is already appointed. This peace allows you to rest in the present, appreciating what is in front of you rather than obsessing over what is missing. Trust does not mean inaction. It means alignment. While you wait, you continue to grow, to prepare, to become. You stay faithful in small things, knowing that they are shaping you for bigger things. You stop measuring success by speed and start measuring it by obedience. Trusting God's timing changes your posture. Instead of leaning on worry, you lean on faith. Instead of rushing ahead, you move with grace. Instead of doubting the pauses, you embrace them as part of the journey. Trust is a declaration, I believe there is meaning in this moment, even if I cannot see it. It is an act of strength that pushes back against fear, impatience, and doubt. It is the decision to live with open hands, ready to receive what comes when it comes, confident that it will arrive at the exact time it is meant to. Trusting timing does not weaken you, it strengthens you. It molds you into someone who can withstand the waiting, embrace the process, and celebrate the fulfillment when it arrives. So when life slows down, when doors seem closed, when answers are delayed, remember this: trust the timing. It is not random, it is not careless, and it is not cruel. It is intentional, precise, and purposeful. Every second of waiting is shaping you, positioning you, and aligning you with the destiny written for you. And when the time finally comes, you will see that it was worth every moment of trust. Walking in his plan brings peace, clarity, and purpose that no earthly achievement can replace. So many people spend their lives chasing success defined by the world, titles, wealth, recognition, and possessions, believing that once they achieve these things, fulfillment will follow. And yet, how often do we see people reach the height of worldly success only to feel empty inside? That is because true fulfillment cannot be found in what fades. It is only found in living aligned with the plan designed for you since the beginning. Earthly achievements can give you moments of happiness, but they cannot anchor your soul. When you walk in God's plan, however, you find a peace that remains steady even in storms, a clarity that guides you when life seems uncertain, and a purpose that carries eternal weight. Peace is one of the greatest gifts of walking in alignment with His plan. The world's peace is fragile. It depends on circumstances, on everything going the way you expect. But His peace is deeper. It steadies you when the path is unclear and calms you when challenges arise. You no longer live in constant anxiety about tomorrow because you know you are where you are meant to be today. Even if everything around you is shaking, peace within reminds you that you are not lost, that your steps are ordered, and that you are held. This peace cannot be purchased, manufactured, or faked. It is the natural fruit of walking in alignment with something greater than yourself. Clarity also comes when you walk in His plan. Without alignment, life often feels like a maze of endless choices, each one leaving you second, guessing whether you did the right thing. Confusion thrives where purpose is absent. But when you live according to His plan, your steps are guided by more than impulse or pressure. You begin to see direction in places you once only saw chaos. Decisions no longer feel paralyzing because your compass is not worldly approval but divine alignment. Clarity doesn't mean every detail is revealed. Rather, it means you know the next step, and that is always enough. Each step forward confirms the path, and even when detours appear, you can discern which way leads back to the plan. Purpose is perhaps the most profound aspect of walking in His plan. Purpose gives meaning to every season, whether in success, failure, joy, or struggle. When you live for your own ambitions alone, life can feel hollow because it lacks a higher reason. But when you walk in His plan, you realize your life is not just about what you achieve, but about who you become and how you impact others along the way. Purpose lifts your eyes beyond yourself, connecting you to something eternal. You no longer measure your value by what you possess, but by the significance of your journey and the lives touched because of it. Earthly achievements, though not wrong in themselves, can never replace these deeper gifts. They fade, they shift, and they can be taken away. But peace, clarity, and purpose are treasures that remain no matter what happens externally. A person with these three is richer than someone with all the world's applause but no inner fulfillment. When you walk in His plan, you carry a joy that cannot be explained because it does not depend on what you have but on who you are becoming. You wake each day with a sense of direction, knowing your life matters in ways beyond what the world can measure. So if you ever find yourself restless, uncertain, or weary of chasing temporary things, remember this: peace, clarity, and purpose are waiting for you, but they are not found in striving. They are found in surrendering the plan already designed for your life. Walking in His plan does not promise a life free from challenges, but it promises a life filled with meaning through them. It does not guarantee worldly recognition, but it guarantees eternal significance. And in the end, that is worth more than any earthly prize. My friends, as we come to the close of this message, let us pause and see the thread that has been woven through it all. To seek God's plan is not about striving harder, controlling more, or forcing life into the shape we imagine. It begins with surrender, laying down the illusion that we know best, and opening our hearts to be led. It continues with learning to quiet the endless noise around us so that we can hear the gentle whisper within that points us toward truth. Along the way, we face fears, doubts, and struggles, but we are reminded that these do not define us, nor can they stop what has already been written over our lives. His plan is greater, always unfolding, always preparing us for more than we can see. In that unfolding, patience becomes the soil and faith becomes the water. Waiting is no longer wasted time, it is sacred preparation. Trusting His timing becomes our greatest act of strength because it requires us to believe in a wisdom beyond our understanding. And when we choose to trust, we find ourselves walking in a peace that the world cannot give, guided by a clarity that cuts through confusion and anchored in a purpose that outlasts every earthly achievement. The call today is simple yet profound: seek God's plan, not the plan of your fears, not the plan of the crowd, not even the plan of your own limited vision, but the divine design crafted uniquely for you. In that plan, you will find who you truly are. In that plan, you will discover strength for the journey. And in that plan, you will taste the peace, clarity, and purpose that no power in this world can replace. So step forward, not with anxiety, but with trust, not with doubt, but with faith, not with restlessness, but with patience. For the one who began the work, and you will see it through. Your path is not random. Your story is not forgotten. And your life is held in hands far greater than your own. Seek His plan, and you will walk not only in blessing, but in the fullness of who you were always meant to be.